Welcome to Disky Talk with Leon. If you're tuning in for the very first time, I do ask that you please subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you've been a part of this journey, I hope you thoroughly enjoy this episode. So, on today's episode, I discuss all things Dstv Premiership action as Mamelodi Sundowns lost 3-0 to Stellenbosch. So, this is then the post-match analysis of that encounter. So, coming up then into today's post-match tactical analysis, the blue team will represent Mamelodi Sundowns, and then the red team will represent Stellenbosch. So, looking at Mamelodi Sundowns then, coming up into this encounter, they did line up then in a 4-2-3-1. So, we do know that it is a very, very fluid system, where then they do prize ball possession, a rotational play, and positional play as well. So, looking at Mamelodi Sundowns then, in goals, they did start with Ricardo Goss. As the back four at left back, they did start then with Mudiba. Left-sided centre-back, Lebusa. Right-sided centre-back, Grant Kekana. At right back, they did then go with Mudau. Going into then the heart of midfield, they started with Mukwena and they started with Kulisi as well. And then you had Tembazwane, you had Ralani, you had Maema, and then you had Peter Shalulile. So when you look at Mamelodi Sundowns then in possession of the ball, how are they trying to apply themselves? So in possession of the ball then, they were very, very aggressive within the half of Stellenbosch, and Mamelodi Sundowns kept the lion's share of possession. So the offensive scheme then was very aggressive as you did have Shalulile, you had Ralani coming into the half space, you had Maema coming into the half space, you had Tembazwane there, and then providing the width on the left-hand side, you had Mudiba, and then on the right-hand side, you had Mudau. And then you did have Nkulisi, and then you had Mukwena, who was the deepest laying. So it would often look like that. So somewhat then of a 2-2-6 offensive scheme, and at times it would sort of become a 2-1-7 whenever then Nkulisi would push and venture forward and look then to add his creativity. So Mamelodi Sundowns then a lot of the times this is how then they were offensively set up within the half of Stellenbosch as they kept the ball, and I would say that they started off very well with regards to how they were keeping the ball and how then they were penetrating. It's just that as the game grew along, Stellenbosch became a lot more short with regards to how they managed the lateral and the vertical spaces in between the lines, and it became very difficult then for Mamelodi Sundowns to break down that low block as the game progressed. And whenever then Mamelodi Sundowns did have the ball, they were forced then to go wide and then play those crosses into the box. And they had a couple of crosses into the box where Peter Shalulile then just couldn't finish off those chances at times. And when you then look at it then, Mamelodi Sundowns then created a couple of chances, but they just couldn't convert them. And overall then on the day, when you do look at Mamelodi Sundowns from a personal perspective, I wouldn't say there is a player who really stood out. I just think that Mamelodi Sundowns on the day, they really struggled to break down this low block as the game progressed. And if you do then have a look at Stellenbosch with regards to the personnel, let's have a look then at Stellenbosch. So when you do have a look at Stellenbosch, they started with Sage Steven in goals, and they went then with a 3-5-2. So they started with Sage Steven in goals, a back three of De Guta as the right-sided centre-back. In between the two, you had Robin Johannes, you had Kwinaka as the left-sided centre-back. Moving right along then within the heart of midfield, you had a midfield three of Mtetwa, Jabbar, Adams, and then as the right wing-back, you did have Dino van Rooyen, and then as the left wing-back, you had Mark van Heerden. And then the two up front, you had Dupree, and then you had Ortiz as well. So because then large part of the game was played out in this fashion, this is what then Stellenbosch approach was. But when Mamelodi Sundowns had the ball in their half, Stellenbosch then would resort then to a back five, because they were looking then to tuck in those two wing backs, and Stellenbosch then were very deep with regards to their block. at times you'd have either Ortiz or Dupria looking then to even drop, and it would become a 5-4-1, you know. So this is how Stellenbosch then was set up for large parts of the game with regards to them trying to nullify the pockets of space in between the lines, so that Mamelodi Sundowns can't grow into the game. And even then, when Mamelodi Sundowns were looking to overload the two half spaces and vertical zone 3, they weren't successful at times, you know, but there were certain periods where Mamelodi Sundowns were able to penetrate. It's just that within the final third, they just couldn't make it count. And Stellenbosch then grew with confidence with regards to their low block, and they just stifled and made it very, very difficult for Sundowns to even get at least a goal. So when you do have a look then at this situation, so because then Stellenbosch were sat deep within their own half, what they were always going to be reliant on coming into this game then was offensive transitions and looking to hit Mamelodi Sundowns on the counter-attack. And when you look at the goals then, the goals came as a result of a ball in behind. So the first goal that comes then, you do have Dupria, who makes that run in behind. So he does make that run in behind, and he makes that run in behind Lebusa. And when he does make that run in behind, he goes one-on-one with Goss, and he's able to finish. So throughout the game, then that was a theme and a very crucial point that Mamelodi Sundowns struggled with. That ball in behind. Whenever Stellenbosch looked to go in behind, they seemed to give this Mamelodi Sundowns side a lot of trouble. And with regards to Mamelodi Sundowns then and having their high line, at times the high line was very high, because there was then a moment where you would see both centre-backs pushing into Stellenbosch's half. So much so then that you had about 5 meters, you know, where it was empty. So you had all the space. So you're looking at so much space that Stellenbosch could look to counter-attack into whenever then they did win the ball from this situation. And then when you then do have a look, and then you do have the second goal, it is then a ball that is played in behind. And when that ball is played in behind, Ricardo Goss comes out, and he looks then to try clear it, but his header then only falls short to Van Rooyen, and when the ball falls short to Van Rooyen, he lays it for Adams, and Adams then was able then to coolly just chip Ricardo Goss, which then was the second goal. And then when you do have a look at the third goal, which was scored by Dupria to complete his brace, it is then a situation where Mamelodi Sundowns are so aggressive and deep within Stellenbosch's half. However, Stellenbosch win the ball, and when they win the ball, they then look to transition offensively, and they hit them on the counter-attack with Dino van Rooyen getting the ball out wide. He does then play a ball in behind Lebusa and Krankekana. You have Dupria. He gets the ball. Dupria then manages to finish off. And when you do have a look then at the overall scope of the game, both teams did make substitutions. However, with regards to Mamelodi Sundowns, none of the subs were able to affect the game. And with Stellenbosch, the subs they made then was just to ensure that they closed the shop and to ensure then that they were defensively and tactically resolute. So overall then, when you do have a look at it, Stellenbosch do win 3-0 against Mamelodi Sundowns, where then Mamelodi Sundowns then do lose for the first time at home this season. Ladies and gentlemen, then the player that did stand out for me on the day was Sage Stevens and Ashley Dupria as well. When you look at Sage Stevens, I would say he stood out because of the amount of crucial saves that he made. And whenever then they did penetrate that low block, or whenever then those long balls were played into the box and his defenders couldn't deal with that ball, where it would bounce and go on to goal, he would deal with that. And then with Ashley Dupria, I think his speed in behind, the runs that he was making, and how then he was positioning himself and timing those runs as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in to yet another special episode of Dstv Talk with Luyolo. If you did enjoy this one, please do subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, and share the link as well. It is Dstv Premiership action. Babi Zebonke signing out.